Welcome to the Character Sheet, comic books' official home for all things tabletop and fantasy. My name is Christian Hoffer, and today I am joined by two very special guests. I am joined by the co-GMs of the Reslayer's Take, which is Critical Role's new podcast. Today I'm I can't talk. Today I am joined by George Primavera and Nick Williams. Gentlemen,
Hey,
how
Christian.
are you both doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks so much.
I'm doing okay. Apparently, I can't get through these intros, but otherwise, I'm doing fantastic.
We're so excited to be here. Tip you for having us.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So, the Reslayer's Take. I'm going to.
Bit of a mouthful.
My tongue, not
It's a bit of a mouthful. Totally understand.
So the Reslayer's Take is Critical Role's first kind of like, I don't want to call it third party because it's produced by Critical Role and it's released by Critical Role, but this is the first podcast outside of Midst, which is a totally separate universe. So this is a podcast featuring characters set in Exandria that does not feature the core Critical Role cast, and you guys are the GMs. So obviously, my first question is, how did this all come about?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
It's been like a really wonderful and long journey. I think we first met for the first time to kind of talk. We have another podcast, Hero Club, which is how we kind of started, and we met with Critical Role just generally about Hero Club. I think
and
February 2020, just working together, and then. Just kind of slowly as everything progressed, Sam actually came to us because he really wanted a show that was set in the world, but wasn't not child friendly. He wanted a child friendly show because he told us this wonderful thing that he basically, after Critical Role records, he will go home and tell the story of what happened to his kids without any of the gruesome details or anything that his character said, because everything that Sam's characters say are obviously not child friendly. And he, his kids were so invested and so excited about it, and he really wanted to give them something in Exandria. And our style lends itself to those kind of shorter, tighter, less crosstalk, obviously, episodes, and they're great for all ages. So that was kind of how it began. And then they told us basically you get to explore, wherever you feel you want to explore in Exandria, and Slayer's Take was one of our favorite things. So we started pulling the thread on that. Yeah.
So why don't you actually tell us what is Reslayer's Take about?
Yeah, Reslayer's Take is about a group of would-be members of the Take who get bamboozled into joining what they think is the Slayer's Take by my character, Timpani Guff, who is sort of a bumbly, furbolg gentleman. And in reality, Timpani Guff is sort of a rejected member of the Slayer's Take that has been putting together a big conspiracy board of monsters that have been rising from the grave that the Take have already slain. And the Slayer's Take obviously do not want that information out there. And Timpani essentially gets them into a group so that he can get more people on his side and show them what's actually going on, and kind of make this ramshackle party to go reslay these ghosts that are rising from the grave.
It's definitely Shanghaiing.
Yeah,
definitely Shanghaiing them into a group.
Yeah, he tricks them. But once, our first arc in the kind of first monster they tackle is the skeleton of Rhymefang, the famous dragon that the Slayer's Take and Vox Machina took down. And which is a very amazing for us. Obviously, such an honor to get to reslay Rhymefang. But it's after that, the group obviously can't deny what they're seeing, so it becomes their shared goal. Yeah.
So obviously you've been working with Critical Role for a long time, and since you guys are exploring the Slayer's Take, that was one of the very first things that Critical Role like dabbled with. So are you both longtime critters then?
We're both sort of more recently exposed to Critical Role. We've always been aware of Critical Role in the zeitgeist as just like, and we've definitely like had seen our episodes of CR through like the bigger, more popular arcs. Like when people would be like, you gotta see these 3 episodes. That's when we would like check in. But for a lot of this, it was doing a lot of catch up, getting prepared, because and you know, what a fun homework assignment to get caught up on your Critical Role. You know, but yeah, we've been longtime admirers for sure. Watching Critical Role make like such an incredible, basically started an industry of TTRPG performers and TTRPG producers and all this stuff. So being able to work with them has definitely been a long time dream of ours.
Yeah.
So no, please go ahead.
Oh, and just also, you know, we're such big fans of theirs. We're both kind of came up in voiceover as well. So we're massive fans of theirs from that angle, like kind of across the board.
Yeah, just on an individual basis, right? We're very super familiar with all of their other work as well and big fans. Yeah.
So one of the unique things about the Reslayer's Take is that it uses a 2DM system. That's pretty unique within the actual play space. There's a couple actual plays that use that. So why did you decide on the 2DM setup? What advantages do you think it brings to the actual play format, or just in general sitting at the table playing a game?
George, do you want to take this as kind of like the behind the screen DM?
Yeah, I am like, if you listen to the podcast, you'll often hear my voice in that traditional narration role that DMs typically will fall into. But Nick is very much co-GMing with me the entire time. We plan the loose plan of what we hope will happen in the session together, or what we think will happen. There's obviously pages of contingencies of like, good God, what are they going to choose to do? But there's this really amazing thing that evolves around the table when you have 2 GMs, where you're both problem solving, often silently together. And Nick and I have forget about working in TTRPGs together for 7 years. We've worked together for probably more than a decade in doing entertainment stuff together. So we have like a bit of telepathy where we both know what each other is thinking really well. So that is obviously a major boon to the whole thing, but it also allows us to sort of step in and prompt story beats or character moments that we'd like to see more of from a little bit more of like almost like a directorial standpoint. We're not ever forcing a player to give any backstory they don't want to do or anything like that, but it does allow us to just sort of very naturally, Nick can bring his player, his NPC, Timpani Guff, into the fold and sort of interact with the players in a very natural way, often not as a helpful person, but as just a person who pushes narrative and story forward. What do you think, Nick? Is that's
I basically I operate just as an extension of George in a way that, you know, in kind of a classic NPC format that a single DM would do by himself, and I am just kind of taking one like a very heavy NPC off of George's hands, and we can kind of tag team moments like that.
Yeah, when we get to come in as like Poogs and Timpani, not only can we have like fun little scenes that we just think are fun and improv together, often things that are, I mean, one of the most fun things that sort of developed in most recent things is we had our amazing guest Dominic Monaghan came on for a couple of the episodes. That was, you know, an absolute dream to have him around the table. But something developed very naturally where my little NPC insert Poogs had a moment of jealousy where they were like clearly long established friends, Dominic Monaghan's character Janet and Nick's character Timpani. So by the end of that arc, Nick and I get to just jump into an improvised little scene to tie that up with a bow. Definitely nothing we planned. And it just allows us to, you know, wrap up these character arcs in really succinct ways. Even if they don't necessarily heavily involve the players, there's always stories being pushed forward.
So, talking about the family like style content, this is family friendly, which is great because there aren't very many actual play series that are like that. And you know, Critical Role is something that I have a deep love for, and that is something that's very special to both me and my wife, and we cannot share it with the kids at all at any sort of level. but I play D&D. My wife plays D&D. We know it's a place where we as adults are sharing a story, and occasionally we get jokey and it veers into PG-13 or R rating. So
Yeah.
how often do you have to find yourself like having to cut content because it's not family friendly, or just knowing that this is something that's intended for family friendly audiences? Does that provide enough of a guide rail for you and the cast?
Yeah, I would say, go ahead, Nick.
Well, one, we're very, very lucky. Our cast is so talented and incredible, and many of them have experience doing content for all ages already. And Caroline Lux, who plays Frog, is a story pirate out of New York, and a lot of improv with kids and storytelling with kids. But our format lends itself, because it's edited, it lends itself very well to that. I don't think we've ever had to cut out anything like in the story or anything that is like everyone kind of understands the assignment going in of like, well, this is for all ages. We know the story we're trying to tell, and we're not trying to talk down to kids in any way. Our touchstone has always been Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think for George and I, it's very like big concepts and big ideas, but no gore and no swearing. But I think that because it's edited, people kind of can take a minute in our format to collect their thoughts and then say what they want to say, rather than fully jumping right into their first idea, which I think around the table for sure is kind of oftentimes the non-child friendly option.
Yeah, sometimes there'll be a take one that's certainly expletive written as our players who are around the table playing D&D for real are trying to work through what their character would say in this moment. So sometimes it's nice and freeing to just kind of like zip off what comes off the top of the dome, and then to just take a moment and be like, let's just rephrase that really quick and get rid of that expletive so that it can go through all ages. And it's just basically a take two once in a while that you will hear. But I mean, our cast is incredibly talented. Those are usually quite seamless. And around the table, it's just a haha, can't say that. Here's what I actually want to say.
Into it,
and we move right through forward. Yeah.
So talking about the editing, because this is the second show, there's been various levels of editing within the actual play realm. Critical Role famously doesn't edit. Dimension 20, they do some editing, but it's still a 2-hour show. And then more recently, we've seen shows like Encounter Party and now Reslayer's Take, which is much more heavily edited and much more focused. How do you decide what to cut? What is the perfect cut of an actual play? Like, how do you balance, telling something in a timely fashion with the fact that you also want to emphasize the improv nature of an actual play show?
That's a great question.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think a big part of it is we plan for, I think, kind of our DM style for this form. I mean, I think the format starts with the DMing and the planning process. We are really coming at it a little bit more episodically, kind of in our head as we plan it. It's a little less freeform. It's not on the rails by any means. Anything can happen, just like any actual play. But our kind of structure that we're planning for is a lot more episodic and kind of 3-act structure-y, I think, than an average session. But then also because of that, usually I don't think we've ever cut when it comes to the editing. I do the kind of bricklaying part of the job. We split it in half. I go in and I do the initial cut, which really, when it comes down to it, really just cuts out the crosstalk and the math. It's kind of just like, I mean, when you hear it, George asks for a check, there's a dice roll, and then there's the number. And that's kind of just cutting out all of the, what is this? What is my number again? Like, I get that bonus because of that boon, right? Like, we cut out all that stuff, and then I send it over to George, and he mixes it in with sound effects and music and makes it as immersive as possible. But we've never cut out any sort of scene or improv or anything for time, really. I think we just kind of know around the table that we're aiming for it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the way we plan is Nick and I have been working in this format for years with our own work. So we really kind of have a beat on how much we can fit in an episode within a given time constraint. I think if anything, the only things that kind of get cut are the sort of meandering last improvisations on a beat that maybe like aren't necessary. And even then, it's sort of like the players even know at the table that's probably not making it in because they kind of give up on it halfway or something like that. They're like, we've established that's the beat. Nick and I both come from like a screenwriting background, so we're really trying to keep in mind the pacing of each episode because you can't really have a dud episode where nothing happens in this format because you'd just be listening to. The good thing about the style is
transaction.
The good thing about this style is that hopefully nothing is pointless. Even just characters speaking to each other drives narrative forward. And I think especially in an all ages show, it's really helpful to keep the focus on character rather than player because adults love actual play for the getting to know the players around the table and like seeing that experience laid before them. And I think there are definitely kids out there that would love that and really enjoy it. But I think mostly people of all ages are more universally drawn to like a story being told. So that's our primary focus in both the planning and in the edit is making sure that story is flowing.
Yeah, our kind of initial mission statement was we wanted to make it feel like or sound like how it feels to us around the table. So we wanted to kind of capture the cinematic. I mean, you know, Christian, having played a lot of D&D, like that kind of the cinematic nature of those moments when it's down to one roll and all these intense stakes and factors are in. Like it's impossible to describe that to somebody. It's really hard to be like, yeah, I was there, and the Dragonborn had just betrayed us, and we had to do this. We was down to this one stealth check, and we just really wanted, with the sound effects and the editing and the driving force, to kind of capture, for especially people who had never played before, kind of the feeling you get when you're in those moments around the table.
Yeah, especially, and if people aren't familiar with D&D or TTRPGs in general, this is a really good in to kind of understand what the experience is like in retrospect. Like when you look back on your D&D game, like this is what people feel. It is like, these big bombastic moments, even though music might not be playing at the table, even though it always should be, come on, got to put that music in. We want people to hear that swell of dramatic music right before the big thing so everybody understands the stake that this role had at the table without people being like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen on mic. Just to keep that focus.
So what has the reaction been to the Reslayer's take by critters? This is, I remember when Exandria Unlimited came out, and people continued to have strong opinions about that. In part because it's such a contrast to Critical Role, both positive and negative. So how have people enjoyed the Reslayer's take?
Largely great. Yeah. The feedback's been really encouraging, honestly.
And it's been, it is such a welcoming, warm, wonderful community, the critter community. We love it so much. Being on like the Discord for Beacon and seeing what people have been saying, it's really wonderful, honestly, in contrast to the rest of the internet where, even when people are like, this isn't for me, pretty much across the board, they're like, this isn't my cup of tea, but it is for somebody, and I'm glad that you're doing something different because this is for somebody. And it's so wonderful. Yeah. It's so nice. I love it so much. And also, we've gotten so much great positive feedback. I think my personal favorites are critters, like you were saying, Christian, with kids who can't show their children actual critical. And we've gotten tons of stories that are just like, my kids know how do you want to do this from Critical Role packaging that comes in. And my son freaked out when he heard George say it around the table, and getting to get those moments where they can share that a little bit of that Exandria magic with their kids is really amazing to hear about.
Yeah, that's easily the best part, is seeing like how excited parents are to share with their children, especially because, like you said, you're such like a Critical Role fan, you can't really get across what it is. This is something that both, critters and their kids can enjoy together, and also just like there's lots coming in the Reslayers take that I think is just going to even further galvanize that experience. We've got amazing stuff coming up further down the line, incredible moments that blew Nick and I out of the water around the table.
Yeah. Lots more moments that cement us even further into the canon, which is very exciting.
So that's going to lead me to my last question then, which is, and I've been asked this many times, since your show's debuted. Will there be some kind of crossover with, Critical Role? We'll say proper. Are there plans to have Sam or another cast member perhaps reprise one of their beloved characters in the future? I know I'm not going to get an answer here,
so
but I have
in the future remains to be seen. We'll see further down the line. We do have the amazing Sam Riegel guesting later this season. That was already announced.
Okay.
We'll keep a mystery who he's coming in as, but rest assured, as we move further along and the episodes progress, we will see a little bit more of that Exandria cementing that you're.
We firmly exist between Mighty Nine and Bell's Health. That's where we are in the timeline. And there is certainly stuff coming down the pipe that cements us further in that time frame without giving too much away.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much.
And that's all you're getting.
But it is certainly canon.
I'm just going to take that to mean we're going to see Vaxeldan not as an orb.
We'll see.
Ooh, we'll never tell.
Well, on that note, any final words that you want to give to our viewers?
Well, I think thank you for everybody who's given it a shot. I know that it's not what everyone's used to as far as an actual play, but I think it is really wonderful to see everybody's feedback, and we're definitely seeing that, and we're really excited for everything that is to come. The episodes just, I think, get better and better as they go, and we can't wait for you to hear the stories that our great cast have laid out. So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, echoing the same thing. It's been an absolute honor to play around in Exandria. And it's not lost on us how important this world and this canon are to people. And we really have set out not only on a journey to hopefully loop in some more folks into the critterdom that maybe weren't there before, but also to provide those critters with hopefully a really entertaining and heartfelt and moving and very funny show to keep following along with every week. And yeah, gratitude.
Okay. Well, new episodes of the Reslayers Take, they come out wherever you find podcasts every single week. And if you want early access to the show, you can find that by having a Beacon subscription, as new episodes are also posted there before they're made available to the public. So be sure to give it a listen. It's a great show. Be sure to give it a listen if you have kids too, because it has been a really fun way to introduce my kids to Dungeons and Dragons. So
I'm so glad.
Love that.
Yeah. I mean, genuinely, my oldest son and I listened to the first episode, I think last weekend. So awesome. Yeah, it's great. Okay. Well, on that note, thank you so much for watching another episode of the Character Sheet. Be sure to do the liking and the subscribing and the commenting and all the other things that you have to do in order for, the YouTubes to eat that stuff up. So until next time, thank you so much for watching.